Welcome back, everybody. We're going to explore 7 unique strengths that you develop coming out of narcissistic abuse. This is in thanks to an article that I've discovered titled 7 Unique Strengths People Develop After Surviving a Difficult Childhood. But let's face it, narcissistic abuse isn't just limited to your childhood. It's also in your marriages and in your dating relationships and even in your workplace. So get ready to pat yourself on the back as we explore 7 unique strengths that you are developing. My name is Kevin, and this is The Royal We. Now, before we dive into this article on 7 unique strengths that you develop coming out of narcissistic abuse, let me remind you that I am here to support you. Down in the description box right below this video, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I take telephone calls and video calls through Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. Also, The Royal We has a private membership available for you where you can get daily live support from me with a growing community of people from all over the world. We have a workout program for you and weekly fellowship to explore what the Bible has to say about narcissistic abuse and so much more, all in the privacy of a members-only app. You can download the membership app down below in the description box right now. Also, brand new to the channel is Royal We merchandise. You can pick up a Royal We t-shirt, a hat, a hoodie, even a coffee mug to show your support for the Royal We. The first person to take a picture, post it on their Instagram, and tag me at Join the Royal We will win a free one-on-one appointment. Now, let's look at what this article has to say about 7 unique strengths that people develop after surviving what it says is a difficult childhood, but really it could be any type of abusive situation. Beginning with number 1. The first strength that it talks about developing is turning pain into empathy. It says here that when you've been through pain yourself, it's easier to recognize it in others, and more importantly, to show them compassion. This kind of empathy isn't something you can fake, it's the real deal. I agree to an extent, but I feel like we have to address something that's missing here. We have to be careful with believing that abuse causes empathy or abuse makes somebody an empath. There's no scientific evidence whatsoever, and I feel like we are ignoring the God-given empathy or the predisposition or the natural innate empathy that some people just already have. Some people are born into this world already with empathy, just like some people are born with higher levels of violence, right? Again, you can see this type of stuff on playgrounds and schools. You're going to have some kids that are throwing sand in the eyeballs of other kids, and you're going to have other kids that are trying to make sure everybody's okay. How do you explain that, right? So it's not that abuse makes somebody an empath, but what I would say is that coming out of a toxic or an abusive relationship will take somebody who is already empathetic by their predisposition or by their God-given nature, and it will strengthen that empathy and it will redirect that empathy. Most people end up in toxic relationships simply because of a misguided sense of empathy. They already had empathy, but it was misguided. We were conditioned to believe, oh, well, give your empathy to the mean, nasty people. Give your empathy and compassion to bullies. They're the hurting ones. They're the broken ones. Oh, the poor person's so mean because they're hurting and they're broken, right? Wrong. That's not the truth at all. We now know they're mean and nasty, not because they're hurting and broken, but because they're a narcissist, or they're a psychopath, or they're a sociopath, or they're a cluster B, or they're a borderline, whatever the case may be. It's not because they're hurting. It's just whatever they are. And so somebody with empathy who goes into a relationship and figures that out over time because they're wasting their empathy, and perhaps that was you. You wasted your empathy. You wasted your compassion on these bullies who continued to stomp on you. It's the equivalent of that scripture that says, don't throw your pearls to the swine, because they'll trample it under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. And that's what you've been doing. That's what I was doing with my gift of empathy. The empathy was pearls, and I was throwing it to pigs. In my case, it was the in-laws. They trampled it, had a good time with it, and then tried to turn and tear me to pieces. And that's most likely what happened to you in your marriage or within your family as well. And so what happens is you come out of that toxic relationship, out of that narcissistic abuse, strengthened with a strengthened empathy, meaning you now are more in control of it. You realize that how delicate it is, how special it is, how valuable it is, and you no longer throw it into toxic relationships. Instead, you withhold it and you give it to the people who really deserve it. Who deserves your empathy? Who deserves your compassion? People who have had the same experiences as you. And by the way, isn't that what it says right here at the bottom? It says, when you've been through pain yourself, it's easier to recognize it in others and how to show them compassion. Who compassion? Others that you recognize the same kind of pain in. Now you know how you're supposed to connect and who you're supposed to connect with. You're not supposed to waste your empathy on bullies and psychopaths and narcissists. Don't waste it. You're supposed to give your empathy to the people who you connect with. By the way, I just got to say, that's how the royal we was born. The royal we was born out of my pain. The pain took my empathy, which I once wasted on bullies and narcissistic in-laws and people who were violent and mean. I stopped. And instead I started to put my empathy and my compassion out there. And something amazing happened. The royal we was born, and I started connecting with others who needed the empathy and the compassion through that shared experience. I no longer offer my empathy and compassion towards violent people, towards narcissists, towards psychopaths. They don't deserve it. They don't need it. They don't want it. They don't care. So why waste empathy on them? I digress. Let's move on to number 2. The next strength that you are going to discover coming out of a narcissistic abusive relationship, according to this article, is finding your strength in independence. Now, this is absolutely true. It says this: growing up in a difficult environment often means you have to figure things out on your own. Absolutely. Absolutely. Finding strength in independence. One of the things that I found myself as a coach saying over the past 10 years is that oftentimes whatever you are dependent on in life governs you. So many people who cannot seem to break away from toxic narcissistic family members, even as adults, and maybe that's some of you watching right now, you can't seem to break yourself free of your toxic mom and your toxic dad or your siblings, and maybe you're 40, you're in your 40s, maybe you're even in your 50s, but you still can't get away from your toxic family members. Well, there's a dependency aspect. What are you dependent on? What's governing you? A lot of times what I come across is, there might be money involved. Maybe they're rich. Maybe they have an estate. And I understand, but this is where your dependency is. Maybe it's no money. Maybe what you're dependent on is just this view of family. You're dependent on them because of the title that they have. It's what family is. Whatever you feel you are dependent on, it governs you, and it opens a door for abuse to take place and your boundaries to just get mowed over because of your dependency. The same thing happens in marriages. People stay in toxic and abusive marriages because they feel they're dependent on their spouse. Well, I don't know where else I would go. I don't know what else to do. I'm dependent. Well, whatever you're dependent on governs you. The same is true in work environments. Many of you who have been involved in workplace bullying or are working in places where you feel miserable, again, it's out of dependency. You bought into this idea that, perhaps it's the best company in the world and you'll never find another job like it. And maybe they've conditioned you to believe that with their weekly celebrations of being a Fortune 500 company or voted employer of the year for the 9th year straight. Let's have a pizza party, and they'll throw a pizza at you and say, congratulations, you're so lucky, you work for us. Here's your pizza. Right? It's like, what? They've conditioned you to believe that you're not going to find a better job. And so as a consequence of that, you become dependent. And since you're dependent on it, it governs you. And out of it governing you, you are now exposed to all forms of abuse. The only way this breaks is when you are crushed to the point and you are forced out, you are purged. You're purged away from the toxic family. You're purged out of that toxic workplace environment. And only when you survive on your own, you find new people to connect with, new community, new people to call family. As a matter of fact, I even struggle with the word family. Somebody brought this up in the Royal Week coaching program in the private membership. We had a conversation where somebody said, I don't like the word family. And I get it, because family implies gang. tribalism, perhaps a rigid structure even. A lot of people have had a horrible experience with family, with competing, who's who in the family dynamic, who's the golden child, who's the black, whatever. So we have to be careful with this stuff. But once you're away from that, what this is saying is that you're going to find strength in your independence, meaning once you get out and you face that fear, the fear of being alone, the fear of being away from the family, the fear of having to find another job, the fear of being out of that marriage, once you face it and you stand on your own, you realize you're stronger in your independence than you are with them. And by the way, once you're independent, you never have to worry about dealing with narcissistic abuse again. Again, narcissistic abuse is the consequence of dependency. When you're independent, who can abuse you? Think about this for a moment. Once you stand in your independence, who can abuse you? You can go into any job and say, I'm here as an agreement. I'll do this work and you'll pay me this much money. This is the agreement. But if it gets abusive and weird, I'm out. I'm just going to walk out and it's done. It's the attitude of, I don't need it. I don't have to be here. There's other jobs. This is when you are an independent person and you're able to value yourself and your time and your energy, and you find strength in that. You'll never experience workplace bullying again. The same is true with relationships. You go into a relationship, you meet somebody. Yes, I'd love to hang out. I'd love to get to know you. You start cussing at me, cussing at other people, mistreating people. If I see this mean, weird, wild, hateful streak in you, I'm done. I don't need you. There's plenty of people I can meet. I don't need that. Do you see the difference? There's strength in your independence. This is what it looks like when you become independent. And by the way, finally, the same is true with your family. Absolutely. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, in-laws especially, who feel like you have to be a part of their family. Once you are able to stand on your own 2 feet and you determine what family, if there is such thing, is for you, you can absolutely say, I don't need that. We don't need you. We're not here because we need you. You're going to treat us with kindness and fairness, or you won't see us. Period. End. You're not needed. Basically, you're breaking away from the dependency. You're saying, I'm not dependent on you. This is absolute freedom, folks. And I'm glad that this article recognizes this as one of the strengths that you develop coming out of narcissistic abuse, because it's true. You find yourself feeling stronger as an independent person, which is great because it means you will never again depend on somebody else. And you'll be able to walk away from anything that is not good for you and not healthy for you. Moving on to number 3. Lots of butts on these ads. So pay no attention to the butts, all right? Number 3 is mastering emotional awareness. So the third strength coming out of narcissistic abuse is mastering emotional awareness. Now, it says this: when you deal with a challenging environment, you quickly learn to read the room. This is true, and empaths have this ability already. It's almost like a survival skill, being able to sense shifts in tone, body language, or even the smallest changes in someone's mood. Over time, this heightened awareness turns into an incredible ability to understand emotions both in yourself and others. I feel like this is true, but I also feel like this is kind of like the first one when it talked about empathy. You already have emotional awareness. Most people who go into toxic relationships or have narcissistic family members, whatever, you already have emotional awareness. So it's not that the abuse gave you emotional awareness. Being an empath, you are emotionally aware. That's just part of the predisposition of being a highly empathic person. That's part of what empathy is. It's the ability to read the room or read the emotions of others. But I will say this, that what is true about this is that it's not mastered until you learn how to control your emotional awareness. Now, that is what is strengthened coming out of narcissistic abuse. You see, in a toxic relationship, your emotional awareness is being used. You're well aware that you're with somebody who is angry and hate-filled and rageful, and you're aware that they're attacking you and they've had a bad day and you're aware that they're being mean and you're aware that they're rude. You're aware of all this stuff emotionally. You can read that easily, right? As a matter of fact, you are so aware from the beginning of the relationship that it intimidates narcissistic people. That's right. Your emotional awareness is intimidating to them. And this is what causes them to become more defensive because they're trying to hide their emotions from you. I made a whole video talking about why you intimidate narcissistic people. I'll put a link right there. I encourage you to watch it. It's a powerful video to understand what it is about you that intimidates narcissistic people and psychopaths and sociopaths. So watch that video. But you're able to be emotionally aware. But without having mastered that, what typically happens is you take that emotional awareness as a burden on you to try to understand, to try to correct, to try to fix. You try to love them into a better place. You try to listen to them. You try to understand them. This is what it looks like when you've not yet mastered your emotional awareness. You're emotionally aware, but you're directing this emotional awareness into allowing it to take a burden on your life to try to be there for them, to fix them, and to serve them. All right? Now, once you get out of the toxic relationship and you add the mastering aspect, which is what it's talking about here, you master your emotional awareness. What this means now is that not only are you aware of other people's emotions, but now you've mastered your own as well, which means you're not tying your emotions to theirs. That's really where the mastering is, okay? You've already been able to understand other people's emotions and yourself, but now being a master of that, you're able to separate it. So now you can walk around any narcissistic person, you're angry, aggressive, mommy, daddy, brother, sister, people at work, whatever, and you sense their emotional rage, anger, hatred, you're instantly able to separate the two. Not my business. That ain't my circus. I don't know what's going on. You're yelling, screaming, whatever. That's you, not me, not my responsibility. I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to try to understand it because I don't want that toxicity on me. Now you're a master of your emotional awareness because you are aware of their emotions and you've mastered yours to the point of protecting yours. And you will reserve your emotional awareness. You'll reserve your connecting and your sense of responsibility only to those that are safe. And you'll be aware of that too. Going back to number one, it's going to be people who you connect with, who you share in their hurts. Let's face it, when you're dealing with mean, angry, aggressive, narcissistic people, you don't share in their hurts. When I look back on dealing with the in-laws who were violent, hostile, aggressive, and angry, and cussing and yelling and screaming at it, I have no clue what that's like. I don't know. I don't, because I don't live like that. So I don't share in that type of cognitive reasoning or whatever you want to call it. I don't share in that lizard brain Neanderthal lifestyle of let's violently, beat our way through understanding of whatever, getting what we want. Let's compete and destroy each other. That's lizard brain nonsense to me. So I really had no business trying to use my emotional awareness, trying to connect with them, to empathize with them, and trying to understand them. It's a waste of time. It's like a deer trying to understand a lizard. It's not going to happen, right? And so mastering emotional awareness means I see that they are lizard brain, hurtful, hating people, whatever. I separate myself from that and I just accept it. It's their emotions or lack of emotions or whatever. My awareness is now protecting me. Does this make sense? And redirecting it to where I should be using it. That is what is super important about number 3, mastering emotional awareness. Let's move on to number 4, developing a problem-solving mindset. Here's what it has to say. It says that there's no guidebook, no clear answers, just you trying to figure it out as you go. Over time, this builds a unique ability to think critically and creatively under pressure. So basically, it's saying that when you are faced with challenges where there's no easy solutions, you have to become creative. This is absolutely true. Many people in toxic relationships, you instantly have to start exercising your problem-solving mindset. What am I going to do? In fact, this is typically what I strategize people with over the telephone or during one-on-one appointments. How do we get you to safety? How do we get you out of the toxic relationship? When should you leave? When is it going to be safe to go? Maybe you're dealing with a narcissistic husband or a narcissistic wife and you're ready to get out. So how do we get you out, get you to an apartment? What if they come knocking? When do we call the cops on them? All this stuff, right? Strategizing. This is problem solving. Next level problem solving, that once you see you are able to do these problem solving skills, it strengthens that in you. And you know that you're strong now. You're able to find solutions as you go, which builds strength. The worst thing that we can do in toxic relationships is to, I would say, misdirect our problem-solving skills, which means, this is what it looks like, instead of creatively trying to find our way out to be independent, we instead waste our time trying to solve them. This is what we do. We try to fix the abuser, and we think we're problem solving. I'm going to stay in the relationship and I'm going to try to make it better. I'm going to try to make it work. That's not problem solving. That's actually quitting. It's giving up. You've given up on yourself. True problem solving mindset comes from, well, what's the real problem? The real problem is that I'm in this relationship and I shouldn't be. That's the problem. How do I solve it? All right? Now you're getting into next level problem solving skills. I'm in this toxic relationship, or those people are my narcissistic family, or this is my toxic boss and this is the job. What do I do? How do I solve this problem? Now you're stepping into, what do I need to do? How do I get out? How do I find a place to go? How do I find a new place to live? How do I find another job? How do I survive on my own? This is next level personal problem solving that really develops coming out of narcissistic abuse once you make the decision to break free and to become independent. Number 4, developing a problem-solving mindset goes hand in hand with strength and independence, which I believe was number 2, right? Number 2 is strength and independence, if I can find it. Yeah, finding strength and independence. That goes hand in hand with problem solving. You use your problem solving to find your independence. So that's a great team right there. Number 5, finding strength and resilience. So the next thing that strengthens you coming out of narcissistic abuse is the strength that you find in your resilience. It says here that there were times when giving up felt like the easiest option. So when things got so heavy, I wasn't sure how I'd keep going, but somehow I did. And that's what resilience really is. It's getting back up when everything in you is screaming to stay down. Absolutely. And now being in a toxic relationship and experiencing narcissistic abuse, it's real easy to want to stay down. It's real easy to want to stay quiet, to give up on yourself, to give up on your identity, to give up on your passions in life, your hobbies in life. It's oftentimes said when I coach with people that they feel like they're a shell of who they once were. This is what it sounds like when you're on the brink of giving up in life because the narcissistic family or the narcissistic husband or wife criticized you to the point of wanting you to give up, right? And so finding strength and resilience means that you're going to take steps towards your passions and your interests regardless. And this is something I encourage people to do on their healing journey. Many people that I've coached with take steps out to regain who they are. Even small things, right? Going rollerblading again, going back to the beach again, going for walks again, going on hikes again, and dare I say it, even dating again. But dating in a whole new way. By the way, if you have questions about dating, schedule some one-on-one time with me because I'll share with you some insights that I've learned over 10 years that works for dating. It will change the way you understand dating, okay? But nonetheless, it's through your resilience that you're going to find strength because you're not giving up on yourself. You're continuing to step into who you are. You're stepping into your authenticity. You have to stay you, and you're going to find strength in your resilience. You're going to find strength in being able to keep going, keep being who you are. One of the hardest things coming out of narcissistic abuse is to maintain who you are. It's hard not to feel like it changed you in some way. You might feel like you no longer want to go out, you no longer want to be around people, you no longer want to date, you just want to mope around, sit on the couch and eat potato chips, right? And it's no wonder you can't stop ruminating about the narcissistic person. It's because you're no longer challenging your body. And sadly, we are biochemical beings. And if you're going to sit around and eat potato chips, well, biochemically, your mind is going to think about the toxic relationship because it's the only thing that's exciting in your life. And this is half of your battle with ruminating thoughts. Half the reason you're ruminating is because you're not doing anything. So one of the challenges that I give to you, especially if I'm coaching you, is this: be resilient, get up, make yourself work out, make yourself go back to the gym, make yourself date again, make yourself go to dinners, make yourself join a community, make yourself roller skate, rollerblade, skateboard, make yourself surf, make yourself travel, make yourself shock yourself back into the realization that life is more exciting outside of that toxic relationship. That is where you're going to find strength in your resilience. Number 6, appreciating the small things. This is true. Yes, absolutely. It says here, when you are in a situation without certain stability, without certain comforts, you develop a deep appreciation for the little things others might take for granted. Like a quiet, peaceful morning. It'd help if I'd share this with you, huh? There it is. A quiet, peaceful morning, a kind word from someone who cares, or even something as simple as having food on the table or a place to call home can feel like a gift when you know what it's like to go without it. Yes, there is a phenomenon that takes place, and this even took place in my life, where I once sought and desired to be a part of the big family, which was real noisy, lots of get-togethers, family parties, this and that, but it was toxic and it was abusive and it was violent and hostile and angry and real sad and real disgusting and real gross. And in a way, it transformed me to appreciate just the smaller things in life. I find much more comfort just in the morning having a cup of coffee, just me and a partner or somebody, or even on my own, and just sitting and listening to the birds. I would choose a nice, peaceful, quiet evening over a rowdy party full of people any day. And this is a wild transformation because at one time I thought I needed that wild party. I thought I needed the big family, thought I needed all the friends, but that's where narcissism exists. That's where you're going to find the hierarchies, and that's where you're going to start to find the rigid conformities, if you will, and the positioning and the fighting. When you're able to step away from all that and you find strength in just appreciating the small things, your quiet, your peacefulness, you're going to learn that, wow, it's so much better. There's so much more strength in just calm and peace, right? Even with, I know that with my kids, I have a couple little ones still, and even their birthdays. Yes, I have all their friends around for their birthdays and stuff, but at one time when they were younger, when they were babies, I remember that, some of the narcissistic in-laws wanted to have these big, all the family, but it was so toxic, so much tensions. What a waste. I liked it when it was just me and the kids. And back at that time, the mother of our kids, just us on their birthdays. That was amazing. That was beautiful. It was peaceful, right? So you're going to definitely grow an appreciation for small things when you come out of narcissistic abuse. You're going to see that it's not worth it being around the rowdiness and the parties. And I know some of you are watching right now. In fact, there's somebody in particular I'm looking at, this person who is a client of mine, and we've also gotten to know each other, and you're also a friend of mine, and we've shared how you bought into the party lifestyle of this person that you liked, and it was so cool, and you almost missed that. But at the same time, you're starting to see that you like your peace. And it's just, there's something to appreciate about the quietness more than all that, right? Because that's where toxicity exists. Moving on to number 7. Building unshakable self-awareness. Absolutely. It says this: you're forced to take a hard look at yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your limits. You become deeply aware of who you are because understanding yourself is often the key to surviving. Yes, this is true. This is what becoming completely authentic is all about. It's accepting your unshakable self-awareness. One of the greatest things you have coming out of narcissistic abuse is a better understanding of who you are in this life. What you don't want, at the very least, because you just experienced that. But over time, taking steps towards what you truly do want. And what you want in life has to be based off of who you are, has to be based off of a true self-acceptance. The biggest challenge you face coming out of narcissistic abuse is to accept yourself. Many people come out of narcissistic abuse still trying to work on themselves, and it breaks my heart when I hear this as a coach. People come out of a horrible toxic relationship and they're saying, Kevin, I just want to take time to work on myself. There's something wrong with me. I keep getting involved with toxic relationships and blah, 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 on and on and on. I'm like, look. Stop. You don't need to work on yourself. Stop working on yourself. Stop working on yourself. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. Are you ready? It's not for lack of working on yourself that you end up in toxic relationships. It's for lack of accepting yourself. And I could go on and make a whole other video on this topic. It's for lack of accepting yourself. You work on yourself, you're avoiding yourself, you're running from yourself, and you're trying to build something for this person or that person. It's like living over and over and over again, chasing the validation of your parents, chasing the acceptance of your first boyfriend, chasing the acceptance, and you're trying to retool yourself and chisel yourself and remold yourself to look like what they want and what they want. And this is why you're always being abused. And worse than that, you're never able to step into true independence and authenticity. So what I say is stop. You don't need to fix yourself. You're not broken. You don't need to reshape yourself. You're perfect the way you are. You need to accept who you are. Building unshakable self-awareness is when you get to this point where you are finally self-aware of everything that you are, everything that you have to offer. And as a result of knowing everything you are and everything you have to offer, you also know everything you need to be the best version of yourself. And you hold out in any relationship, whether it's family, friends, romantic, you hold out for the person who's going to make you the best version of yourself, who's going to receive everything that you have and pour back into you. So you see, it's not about fixing yourself. It's not about changing yourself. That's not the key. The key is accepting yourself, and with accepting yourself, building unshakable self-awareness. Hope this video was encouraging and inspiring to you. As I said before, I'm here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. Head on down there, schedule some time with me. Check out the Rowie private membership. Order your Rowie t-shirt, hat, mug, and check out one of these videos recommended by the YouTube algorithm because it knows what you've been watching. And I'll be back with more videos for you right here on the Royal We. Have a great evening.